Welcome back to another episode of KKC Consulting. With me, I actually have an entrepreneur today in our 35th episode. Now, Imam Khalid, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really do appreciate you for coming out, and I understand, super busy with the whole entrepreneur side of things, but I do appreciate it.
No, I'm super excited, man. I'm so excited to be here.
Let's do this. It's a podcast that has been very, very long awaited. We've been trying to get this going for a long time, but I'm glad we finally can get into the groove of things.
100%.
Now, I know you pretty well. I've seen you at prayer, all these different events, but the audience doesn't. Do you mind giving a little tell me about yourself?
100%. Well, everybody, as Amar introduced very nicely, my name is Imam Khalid, founder and CEO at Sellstatic. And a little bit about my background. I was a student entrepreneur. I've worked at a bunch of different startups, businesses. I've ran student clubs before. And then, but the entrepreneurial journey kind of started, which I'm pretty sure is going to be your first question, was it started for me when my father came to this country as an immigrant, which a lot of, I guess, people watching will have a similar experience. So for myself, it was watching dad early morning screaming on the phone, late night screaming on the phone, and not knowing why. And once I got to learn a little bit more about his career, which is becoming a realtor, I got the bug for entrepreneurship. And then my background being in tech, doing a double major with computer science and business. I got pretty interested and grew a community and network around tech. Worked a bunch of jobs at different startups as like interns, sales manager, and which led me to launching my business today.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, it seems like a very long and unwinded journey, but let's really just ravel into that.
Let's do it.
As you mentioned, you probably know what my first question is going to be. Talk to me about your journey in entrepreneurship.
Man, I really love this question. It's because everyone you talk to will have a different perspective and journey on how entrepreneurship goes. Like, some people find the starting much easier. Some people find it much harder. But majority of the time, the starting is really usually the hardest part.
Yeah.
Then you get past the fluffy and the honeymoon stage of a business, and the real work kicks in. So for my specific journey to entrepreneurship, my journey started when I worked, as I told you earlier, I worked a bunch of internships my first couple of jobs. I worked at TD Bank, and my entire career so far has been in sales. At the TD Bank, where your entire job as a teller was, handle cash, fast-paced customers, grumpy customers, happy customers, and managing high-pressure situations because you're playing with people's money, so you got to be careful. Then my first internship was a sales intern at a startup company, actually at the DMZ, which we are right now. Shout out DMZ. But my learning experience started there. I truly learned what sales was. And my first job was actually knocking on doors in 40-degree weather outside, trying to sell an idea that no one knows who I am, no one knows what I'm selling, and no one knows the company that I'm from. If you want to learn sales, that is true sales for you right there. Door-to-door sales. And that's where I started, man. I was knocking on restaurants' doors in 40-degree weather outside in downtown Toronto. And my job was literally to go try selling a vision, an idea. And once you do that a couple times, get a couple doors slammed in your face. It's funny, man. My boss took me to Chinatown one time to try selling, and that's one of the hardest core. It's really hard to get into Chinatown with any software. So man, I got sworn on in different languages I didn't even know. But it was a good learning experience. But that hence really got my first internship taught me a lot about what hustle really looks like. And obviously at early stage companies, you don't get paid insane salaries. Like, you're just an intern. You're working for what you can. And that really motivated me, I guess, to start my own thing, but not yet. It clearly wasn't enough. Then I was president for one of the largest organizations at York University, a student-led organization called the Entrepreneurship Development Association. I led a team of 20 there. We brought in over $20,000 of funding to the school for the program, and it was fun. We had fun. We would host student events. Exactly, like one was called Journey to Entrepreneurship. We would call in big speakers, engage a lot with our entrepreneurial community. Once again, now you'll start to see like my first internship was sales experience. TD was customer experience, then sales, then leadership. My first leadership experience was running a club.
I see.
And throughout this, I started off as a marketing associate, then VP, then president. But as president, we came back from COVID and we were learning a lot more.
Right.
Exactly. So after EDA, I then became one of the youngest sales manager for one of the fastest growing startups in Canada.
Wow.
And I was leading a team of 3, obviously with the leadership role. I met them through EDA actually. So it was really cool, man. I learned a lot at that startup. I'd be at board meetings, Microsoft headquarters, and doing a whole bunch of fun stuff throughout the summer. And that's where my bug for startups, I guess, kind of came in. And then to where I am today, man, I launched my business. And my launch was honestly like easy/hard, because the first challenge that every entrepreneur will face at one point is when you have to give up multiple things.
Mm-hmm.
That is a
Yeah.
topic that I promise there's a listener listening to this right now, and a challenge they face is that they come to a hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
Do I start my business? Do I not? And that challenge always arises from a couple of few things. One is that what do I have to give up in order to do this?
Mm-hmm.
So on my road path, I was stuck between, I was working at a startup, other under a mentor, building one actually as a growth lead. I was a sales manager, young sales manager at a nice company, making good money.
Mm-hmm.
I was president for one of the largest organizations at York. I had a lot going. You know, I was confident. You're as a kid, like, you know, you're walking around with a little bit of arrogance, saying, like, "Yeah, I run a startup. I'm this. I'm a manager." I had to give it up all, one by one by one. I had to give it up because I knew that if I spread myself too thin across, like, you know, it's jack of all trades, master of none.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't spread myself amongst one specific thing and work as hard as I can, I'm not giving you my true. It's almost arrogance. Almost. It's almost arrogant to believe, and Alex Ramosi talks about this as well. But it's almost arrogant to believe that you think that someone else working full time, all their hours, 90 hours a week on one specific thing, you believe that you can do 4 and do better than that person. It's almost arrogant to think that way. But it was for a lot of people. So I gave everything up. I started my business, went through the honeymoon stage of every business, the designs, the logos, the competitions.
Oh, the logos are so nice.
Man, we
So
generated your first 100 logos.
Yeah.
And like going through a million variations, the websites, the pitching, the fun stuff that happens. But then quickly realized that this is a lot harder a journey than I thought it was going to be. Funding, where you bring money from, your first couple customers, getting those first couple customers, getting someone to believe in a vision of yours, building a team, having team issues, and then leading us to where we are now, just getting recognized nationally. We got named one of the just graduated, but we got named one of the fastest growing student startups in Canada, winning multiple pitch competitions across Canada. And then also out of 1,000 entrepreneurs globally, we just got selected as one of the top 35 to pitch at Web Summit. So if you're at Web Summit, come check us out. And then also got another feature in the Canadian SME as again, one of the top entrepreneurs in the country.
What are you not doing, man?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I'm glad you unraveled really, really in depth your journey through entrepreneurship, because so many things I could touch upon. Alex Ramosi, jack of all trades, master of none, many, many things. But what I really want to dive into is just the fact that you mentioned how entrepreneurship isn't all sunshine and rainbows. 100%, right? Now, what I feel, even for me personally, like, and inshallah, we're developing an app. We're also creating like a better website. We're doing all these awesome things. But what I find is the hardest part to this entire journey is the mundane work that comes in between. Because see, the thing is, the mundane work, you start at 9, 10 a.m., you do it till like 4 a.m., right? Over and over and over again, the exact same work. And, at times it really makes you think like, I thought the biggest challenges would be like something crazy, like maybe a co-founder ran away with my code, or you think that would be the biggest challenges, but really it's just the consistency of carrying over and over and over again. That leads me to my next question. Talk to me about consistency for yourself and for Sellstatic.
100%. I love it, man. I love it. The work starts when the work gets boring. That is when repetition comes in. A skill is built when you do it for a long period of time. Pitching, presenting, public speaking. How do people get better at that? They don't get better at that by walking and talking to themselves in the mirror. You get better at it by putting yourself into a crowd of 40 people, then 100 people, then 1,000 people, then a couple thousand people, then recording podcasts that thousands of people are watching, 4,000 views, 5,000 views. Repetition is the art of learning. Man, Alex Ramosi fan. Alex Ramosi, if you're watching this. But another concept that I've learned from like a couple books, Alex Ramosi and Tony Robbins and Ed Mylett and a lot of other people. If we define learning is defined as what? If the same outcome is presented to us, but the behavior has not changed, you are considered an idiot. It's true. You're considered an idiot.
Right.
If you are presented with the same outcome again and again and again, but your behavior does not change, you're considered someone who's not learned. But now, if the same situation is presented to you, but your behavior and outcome is different, congratulations, you have learned. Now, the consistency of work is how can you do one period of thing for a longer period of time, enough to see results. Now, at an early stage for a startup especially, you tug on things that yield results. You tug on things that help you pull through as a founder. Man, there are days where I'm sitting there and you're just looking at everything and why am I doing this? It's like, why? I'm spending money, I'm spending time, I'm spending effort, I'm spending meetings. Your team doesn't see as much as you. Another huge thing, like no one in your business will work as hard as you do. And that's where that grunt work comes in, which is that a lot of early stage founders think that they can give up their work to someone else. That, hey, I don't know how to design a website, I'll give it to someone else. But that's where entrepreneurship comes in. The boring part is you to sit there, watch a video, learn how to build your first website, and see how you can mold that into actually creating content that will mold you into a better entrepreneur, learning. You're in the season of learning when you're first starting something, because even if everything fails, the job is that how can I build something enough to learn? And I think especially during some of my personal down points, man, there was a time in my business where customers that promised money, they go out the door. My first time I was launching, we went to market, had a bunch of customers ready to pay, and they paid us. And we promised the date that we're gonna be giving them.
Oh no.
Software crashes.
Wow.
Crashes in their face. And it was a beta. We were a bunch of kids putting together our software. But we learned. We iterated. I learned now how to deal with a grumpy customer that's giving me money. I learned what a refund does and how much that's going to charge me. I learned how to mold Stripe, learned a bunch of different things together. But that is where learning happens. It's when you're able to go and actually create something on a larger scale, learn from your previous outcomes, and create a more successful one. But consistency and persistence, none of it is possible without these things. These are two core principles that at some point, motivation will not run you. Goals won't run you. Systems will. Systems that you have in place on a day-to-day basis, like staying organized. What are you doing to ensure that your company is going to go forward? And it's atomic habits. It's systems.
Habits,
what
right.
systems you have put in place, habits that you're building, like going to the gym. Habits that you have going to the gym that will then yield in results later. And one big thing, last point I'm going to touch on, is expecting results right away. The biggest problem young entrepreneurs have our age, especially my biggest problem myself, was that I would do something for a short period of time, but I would expect massive results. I wanted the magazines, I wanted the money, I wanted the fame, I wanted everything that I wanted I could have, but I hadn't put any work in yet. So that's what I would touch on there.
And it's interesting, right? One specific thing that you mentioned that I can resonate with so much is the fact that the CEO, the founder, whoever's at the top of that leaderboard, they set the standards. So thankfully, KKC actually has 10 interns now, right? And fantastic team. I don't even know how I secured those guys. They're absolutely fantastic. Shout out to them. Now, what I realize is that as the founder, as the leader, I have to set the standards. If I come a minute late to a meeting, that tells everyone that, oh, yo, perfection is coming 1 minute late to the meeting. So if I come like 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 minutes later, it's not a big deal, right? Like if the founder's doing it, then I could do it too, right? And see, that's where the problem lies, because then you realize that you have a bigger responsibility on your shoulders, in the sense that what you used to do now, going back to your earlier topic about distractions, what you used to do now, you have to cut out, and you can't really, I don't even want to say slack off, because it's not really slacking off, it's just enjoying time, right? But you have to cut those out in order to uphold to those standards that you now have to, due to the new team that you have, due to the people that are working for you. Because at the end of the day, these 10 interns, they're giving me their most valuable asset, their time. And not only that, in 10, 20, 15 years, people might come up to them and say, hey, you worked at KKC, right? If I turn out to not be the best leader on the planet, or if I turn out to not, excel, then it's just going to reflect badly on them. And I have to realize that, it's a big weight on my shoulders. But talk to me now, how do you manage the whole hiring process? Because I remember we had a phone call where I actually took advice from you, and that advice helped me a lot. So I'm sure you could share some with the audience as well.
100%. Okay, so it's funny because this is a touchy topic for a lot of people, because I'm a true believer that your team is either going to grow you or kill you. And at an early stage, learning that every task that is given is an important task that we talked about before. Founders get in the habit of pawning off their tasks to other people. And when you do that, your now quality of work obviously is going to be lower, because no one is going to care about the business as much as you.
Right.
So the framework that I've heard about this before as well is that I know that nobody is going to work on my business harder than I am. And that is a fact. No one is going to work on KKC Consulting harder than you. But it was a funny analogy that I heard, which was, if I was a unicorn and I can't be replaced because I'm a unicorn when they're rare. But if I had to replace it, technically, on a technical basis, you could. You can get a nice looking pony and get like when a unicorn comes and has like stardust and everything popping out of its face. You can get a pony. You can get like a bunch of fireflies that light up. You can get you get a bunch of ring, put a horn on its head. Like you can do things technically. It won't be the same as a unicorn, but you can mold it. But the funny asset here is that maybe I might not be able to replace myself. You might not be able to replace yourself. But what we can do is hire 1, 2, or 3 people that actually collectively are better than I am.
A lot better, yeah.
A lot better. And that's what you're giving up. You're getting people to work harder on something with their skills. Another asset that I had to hiring, and it's part of my requirement when I hire, is that person has to have a skill that I don't have. That person has to have a skill that I don't have. If I can do that person's job better than them in less time, why are they here? Right? And it was a big framework when I had to let people go as well. A lot of people talk about hiring and hiring and hiring. It's funny, like, my best hires were accidental. I didn't mean to hire them. Like, they were just people I meet or introduced to. I always based off, obviously everyone loves going on referrals more than they go on random hires. But my best hires are usually always accidental, where like, I'll meet somebody, they'll introduce me to somebody, or like, they'll reach out to an Instagram post or something, and that person will end up being one of like our hardest working people. But going back to what I was saying previously, then during the hiring process, in order for you to bring in good talent, you brought it up earlier that if someone goes and shows up 5 minutes late to a meeting, if they show up a couple minutes late and now you set a standard for everyone else to be okay for showing up late, what happens now is that if I want to now go and bring a new team member on, and they're already coming to a negative culture where like Sally thinks it's okay to show up late and talk nag and like, talk crap and talk smack whatever about another employee, and I don't know what's going on as a founder, but another employee comes in and sees this is okay. Now a new batch of interns come in, or like a new sales associate or a marketing associate come in, and they start talking smack together about the product guys. That's how company culture starts to kill itself. So as a leader, especially in an early stage, when your dollars matter, when your time matters, another thing is knowing when to let someone go. I've said it before, is that poison, if you had a glass of water, most easy example, if you have a glass of water, one little drop of poison in it, are you going to drink it? No. Probably not. Now, your team is the same way. Calling on people that bring something to the team that is a negative emotional killer, even if they're good at what they do, my personal advice is to let that person go. Because they might be producing results. But if they're killing company culture, company morale, getting arrogance, getting other team members to start thinking a certain way that they shouldn't be, it expands. And killing that is a lot harder when it gets bigger and spreads than at the front. I've heard companies and startups wipe their entire teams out and start from the founders again because everyone that was on their team was pretty toxic. It was a hectic part to grow. So that would be kind of my advice on hiring.
Let me unravel that a little bit more, right? Think back to the first time you had to let go of someone because perhaps it wasn't culture fit. Talk to me about how you really got the guts to do that.
Man, one of the hardest things I've ever had to do was actually fire somebody. I remember, man, because especially when like someone's getting paid, and like they're like for me it was a little easier because it was an intern, and that intern's getting paid, and now that person has money that you've given, and like like if you fire them now, they're not going to get their full amount of money. The hardest part is to visualize that, hey, like that person's not going to be like payless for a long period of time. Thankfully, I think this is harder at a much corporate level when people's families depend on this. We've never been at that point, obviously, because we're a younger startup. A lot of our guys are young people. But whenever this happens, this is why you have advisors, people who have dealt with this 1,000 times. And I had to go to my advisors, like, guys, I don't know what to do. But when the other hand comes in, that what if it does this, there's always two ends. There's if I fire her and if I don't fire her. Whenever I looked at the other part, him or her, whenever I looked at the other part of like, if I kept them, then what? I'm actually doing not only that person a disservice, I'm doing myself a disservice. and my business a disservice.
And your people.
And your people a disservice. Beautiful point. So if I know that this is the betterment of that person and myself, but all it requires is a hard, crucial conversation, but the outcome is good, that's going to happen and come out, it's going to be better for everybody in the long term, I'll take that bet 1,000 out of 1,000 times. And I know it sucks to say it, but it gets easier as you do it more. And I always like to end off on like, hey, I will help you with your next step. Let me know what you want. Do you want an introduction? Depending on how the person leaves, usually on a good note. But I will help you find your next step. And when you have that perspective, that relationship with someone to be like, hey, we're a startup. Things are changing fast. Your direction's just different than ours. It's a little bit easier to do. And I think that's a little bit thing that I would say when you're first hiring somebody. It is hard. It's tough. It's tough. But I would definitely say that it's a learning experience for sure.
And that's fair. I appreciate your advice because it's very honest. It's very real, and it's not something, tied up with a ribbon on top. I appreciate the sense that not only was it more so honoring their services in the sense that, as you mentioned, the two pathways, if they continued on, it's a disservice to them as well. But I do appreciate how you individually talk to them and say, yo, let me try to help you with your next steps. Let me try to help you out. Is there an introduction from my network that you need? And I'm happy to give that off. And I really do appreciate you for that. Now, let's take a massive turn, right? One thing I really admire about you, Imam, is just the fact that your pitching skills are out of this world.
I appreciate it.
Right? And I see in some of the real Sellstatic producers. I see it just, I hear about it as well. And that's when you really know that, okay, this guy's got it, right? Now, talk to me about that. How does pitching go?
Okay, so it's funny because it's one of the most important things, and honestly, I tie everything back to sales. You want a new car, you got to learn how to pitch it to parents. You want to get your parents to buy your first car. You want a new toy as a child. Your job is to pitch your parents to get you a new toy and why and how.
You want a girl.
There you go. Pitch it up to the girl. But I think the funny part of presenting is that it happens when passion is high. I believe that the best presenters in the world are passionate about what they do. If you told me to pitch physics to you right now, you'd probably see the worst presentation that you've ever seen because I'm not that passionate about physics. Sorry to my physicists out there. But the truth of the matter of fact is I'm passionate about what I say. I'm passionate about what I do. And passion leads to conviction. Conviction leads to good presentations. When I'm saying something, the feedback that I've gotten is that I'm confident that the person on the other end is not leaving the room without being motivated. And you start to gauge that and learn that more and more once you start doing more. So for example, at first I was scared. I was like, am I a bad presenter? Am I a good presenter? Oh, my friend's just saying that, man. Amar's just saying that because he knows me. And it was a big thing that impacted me a lot in the beginning stages. But slowly what started to happen is that you start to build stacks of proof, of undeniable proof that, oh, I won this competition. Oh, top 10 in this incubator. Oh, top 10 in the nation. Oh, like top 35 in the globally pitched the competition. What ended up happening is that you start to look back and say, hey, I'm seeing myself progressively get better. I'm seeing the things I have to learn, and I'm almost always my biggest critic. But presenting is a skill that no matter what profession you're in, whether you're a doctor, whether you're a nurse, whether you're a businessman, whether you're a financial coordinator, whether you're a dog walker, your job is always going to be at some point pitch something to somebody. And it's almost a sale where convincing someone to let you walk their dog, convincing someone to let you perform surgery on them, convincing someone to choose a product that you're selling. It is almost always going to be about presenting and pitching a skill that is equivalent to everybody in corporate when you're a manager. A lot of you listeners are corporate people. So in the corporate world, combining with entrepreneurship is that what happens when you need to pitch an idea as an intern in front of a board of VPs? What now? You got the raise, you got the corporate job that you've always wanted. You're working at KPMG, you're working at IBM. Now what? Now your manager asks you to present something in front of a board of directors. What are you gonna do now? But you're not able to present an idea. because you never focused or learned on it, and then you tank it. Unfortunately, we see some of the world's best performers, best like ideas go to absolute shambles. Startups that go to shambles because the founder isn't able to pitch their vision. I think that's the massive, most important thing about presenting and pitching.
Mm-hmm. There's this one topic that you touched on, straight from Alex Ramosi, and it's a quote that I also want to reintroduce to this. Just the fact that confidence doesn't build evidence, evidence builds confidence, right? And you can take a look with your own experiences, top 10, top 5, top 35, right? And I do appreciate you for bringing that side to things. Now, Imam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really do appreciate you for coming in, sharing your advice, and really just talking about a variety of things that many entrepreneurs, myself included, are facing, many challenges. So thank you so much.
No worries, man. I think what my goal is that if you're an entrepreneur out there, if you're in corporate, I think right now, if you're listening to this podcast and you made it to the end of this podcast and you have not started a business, there's something wrong. Because I really think that everyone out there has an idea that they're passionate about, and you would live in full regret when you're 35 with kids or 40 with kids, and you just regret not taking action at a younger age. So for the 18 to 24-year-olds, because I know it's some of our statistics for most viewers, if you have an idea, go execute. If you're in corporate, you can still grow, becoming an intrapreneur or an entrepreneur. Objective is to always grow, and that's where I guess goal is to provide for everybody. And my personal outcome, my ambition of mine, is to help everyone around us grow. So thank you for bringing me on here.
Of course, and also back to KKC Consulting. You guys feel free to check Sellstatic, link in the description below, and they're available on Instagram as well. Feel free to check them out there. And as always, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. We'll see who the guest is for next time. Thank you so much.